Hey, everybody, welcome back to Chit Chat. My name is Guy Magno. I'm your host. I just got done recording a super fun podcast with my friend Jed Rusk. We talked about marketing, we talked about small business, we talked about scooter gangs and some other really, really fun stuff. But this is a really great conversation. You know, so many of these podcasts, they've been so different because the people that I'm interviewing are different. And I think one of the things that I enjoyed about this one is that Jed works in marketing like I do. And so we got to have a conversation kind of about our career in a unique kind of way. And yeah, I love his perspective. I think what Deerwood is doing is really, really great. You'll hear more about it in a second, but you know, Deerwood's trying to grow and they're committed to like these communities, these small towns that they have banks and branches in. And I think that that relationship between those two is really, really fun, really, really interesting. And I'm excited for you to hear more now. Jed, thanks for coming and joining us on the Chit Chat podcast. Great to have you with us today.
Thank you, Guy. Happy to be here.
Okay, so Jed, maybe just like start by introducing yourself. Who are you and where do you work?
Yeah, so Jed Rusk. I work for Deerwood Bank. I'm the director of marketing for Deerwood. I live in Minneapolis now, which is a recent change for my wife and I in the past year, but we've really been loving it. My story with Deerwood goes back 6 years. I was hired in 2018, so I just hit my 6th year. And my story with you guys goes back not too far after
Almost
that.
that whole time, I think.
Yeah, dang near the whole time. I think we brought you guys aboard, and this is nothing against our former creative partner, but when I came into Deerwood, one of the first things I saw a lot. One of the first things I saw was our brand and our advertising, how we were communicating had grown a little stale.
Sure.
And we had, the pulse I got was that we were okay with it. And I didn't love that. And so we started looking outward, which was a big move for someone coming new into a bank. My first real jump into this industry, my first real jump in a marketing position of leadership. And it was one of those things where it's like, this is risky. I don't know, I haven't seen this old creative partner enough, but I think there's better stuff out there.
Sure.
And so that's kind of what started the journey with you guys. It's been fun ever since.
Yeah, when we jumped into that, we had never done banking before, and
that's part of it. We were looking. You guys were the one player that we looked at during that time that wasn't focused on banking or finance, and that's what we were craving. I think when that hit in the room, that this is a partner that can give us a completely different lens on how we're talking to our community members, our customers, that really stood out to us.
Yeah, from our side of the table, when we're in those environments where we're pitching into an industry that we've never pitched before, there's an element of it where you're kind of nervous because I don't have all of the right words yet, or I maybe don't have all the jargon, but it's not even spin. I legitimately believe it. Those are some of my favorite sales pitches because we are the average consumer. Like, we don't know everything about banking.
Yeah.
We don't know all of the things that you might take for granted in how you communicate. You kind of need to win us first before you can actually win an audience. Mm-hmm. And so coming in fresh like that, I guess Switchboard is 9 years old or whatever, but every time we've had a new industry that we've jumped into, we've had that, we've kind of had that thing. And then you have to make sure that, like, as you have stayed with a partner for 5 or 6 years, like, what can you do to make sure that you're not falling into that thing that you kind of believe that you could do better than,
And you mentioned right there, you said we didn't know. We don't know banking.
Yeah.
I think that was resonating with me at that time in 2019. I was a 20-something, right? I didn't know that much about banking.
Sure.
And I knew a lot of my friends, family members, we all kind of float in this banking ecosystem and we get by, but do we really know what we're talking about? So it was a learning curve for me, and it's actually encouraging to hear that you came into it knowing like, hey, we don't know, but we're excited to learn.
Yeah.
Because I was in that same frame of mind at that time.
And I think one of the other things is sometimes people think that maybe their industry, and I know for sure you didn't do this because of the fact that you took a chance and hired an agency that didn't specialize in banking, but it is possible to think that somehow your industry is unique. That the story that we're trying to tell in banking or whatever is somehow like different than the other communication that's happening in every other industry. Really, it's just humans that are trying to connect on some sort of personal and real level with other humans, and hopefully, because they believe in a product, can help meet a need for that person. That is just the human condition. And so whether you're trying to sell checking accounts and loans or cars or healthcare, education, whatever these other industries that we work a lot in, It's all the same thing. It's human beings, and how do you resonate with someone on a human level? And I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot I could say on that. I mean, everyone has their story. It's, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, but it's everyone's on their own journey. And in banking, I guess I can dive into this right now. In banking, it's a very sticky industry, right?
With the rules.
No.
what do you mean sticky?
I'm thinking loyalty.
Oh,
Very sticky.
Oh, yeah.
I would venture your first checking account. You don't have to tell me where you had it. Probably wasn't with Deerwood Bank. But was it a situation where your parents helped you get that first checking account?
100%.
With their institution?
100%.
Right? So I hear from all of my friends, a lot of my friends, that even all the way through their 20s, they were still banking with that same institution that their parents set them up with at a young age, right? So super sticky. Where we come in, or where you have the opportunity, the way we look at it, where you have the opportunity to gain business, right? Or disrupt that little journey, is at life's moments, right? So we hear a lot, it's marriage, right? I just had one of my best friends just finally came to Deerwood. I've been with Deerwood for 6 years. I just finally talked him into it, but I didn't do it. They got married this last fall, and his wife said, let's go open an account, a shared account at Deerwood Bank. You know, so it's those life moments, whether it's that young couple, that same couple, when they go to buy a house, maybe they have their banking accounts with a big player, but they know a local lender. They've met a local lender through the chamber, through their network, whatever it might be. That's a life moment. They're looking to buy a home. Once they're in the door, let's say they're in the door here at Deerwood, how can we make that an experience where they go, we need to expand on this, right? This is, we've never had anything like this. And it's almost like you don't know what you don't have in the banking field until you have either something terrible happen with your bank account, or you see the other side of it. And I think Deerwood, I'm going to brag about us, I think we do a really good job of showing that other side.
I mean, I'll just say it. My very first, I had a checking account when I was in like 5th grade.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I worked hard.
Ahead of the game.
I worked hard. I like to save money.
Yeah.
It made sense for me to have a checking account. But so I was pretty young. I remember signing checks for the first time, and like, you know, my signature was
In
like
5th grade?
Yeah, it was like a kid. You know?
Oh my gosh.
And it was with US Bank.
Okay.
And here's the thing. Because I was a kid, I didn't have any idea that US Bank was like a giant global monstrosity,
biggest
right?
in the country, yeah.
Because it was just the sweet lady, right? Like it was just that individual. And so like I had the very best like small town banking experience, because the only thing I needed was just like help with my checking account. And that lady, I don't remember. Oh, I wish.
Yeah.
How cool if I remember her
If you
name.
pulled that right now.
She was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, like she knew my name and all of that thing. But then as I started like needing more and more bank services, I bumped into the fact, I think it was the first big one was buying a house.
Okay.
And it was like, this is a monstrosity, you know, like, but I didn't bump into any of that because I just had an individual.
Yeah.
Right. Because I'm in Sartell, you know, we're a small little town. But then once I bumped into some of like the challenges of a big giant bank, that's when I like started to realize like, oh, there are limitations here on what this sweet lady can actually be a part of doing, you know, because it's not just some kid's checking account.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then starting to look for, you know, like, oh, small town banks, regional banks. I guess maybe that's a question for you. What do you, I mean, you work for a bank. What's the benefit of working for either a small local bank or like Deerwood, a regional bank, over, you know, maybe a unnamed big giant?
Yeah. We don't need to name names here. There's a lot of perks and benefits, and it's one of the reasons that I've honestly never considered too much leaving Deerwood, because from an employee side of things, we are an incredibly flat organization. I have the fortune of having a direct communication line with our president and CEO. In my role, I get to work with and meet and work on projects on a daily basis with so many people across our departments. So we're flat internally. We're also super flat on the outside to our customers and community members. So that's something, like you said, that it's that gal who helped you with the checking account, and then you realize there's only so much she can do. I don't think we run into that wall so much at Deerwood. Our president and CEO sits on the first floor of our Baxter office. His door is always open. You would be shocked at the amount of people that feel empowered, and I agree with them. I think they should
Just to
feel
walk in.
empowered enough just to walk straight back to him. Hey, John, how are you doing?
Yeah.
It's one of the coolest things, and that's not something that just Deerwood has going for us. There are community banks all over Minnesota, all over the country, that have these similar stories to share of how their customers see them and engage with them. But that to me is the biggest benefit. And to expand on that, that flatness, from a marketer side of things, I love telling people stories, right? That's what we're in the business of, is telling those stories. I love the amount of calls, emails, photos I get from everyone in our bank. Anyone has a direct line to me. Anyone can call me, text me, whatever, with a photo of someone, some little buckaroo who just saved up enough money to open up his first savings account. And that's actually a funny story. We had a kid, 2018, opened his buckaroo savings account, first ever savings account. COVID, he had saved up enough money to buy his first tractor. And so we on social got to highlight the bookends of that story. Oh my gosh, was that cool. So the access to those stories, and it speaks to the flatness of us, like I said, not only on the outside side of things, but internally. I'm just so fortunate that I don't have to run through a bunch of filters and walls to beg these people to share those stories. They come easy and fast.
I think that's a unique thing about like banking as a category, is sometimes it seems like maybe even for good reason, some of these really giant banks, sometimes they're kind of vilified, in the media, and they spend all the money trying to just like maintain any semblance of like humanity in a marketplace.
Yeah.
But they're big giant machines that sometimes they feel like they move indiscriminately through communities.
Yeah.
But small market banks, like local banks, the flip side is it's so incredible. The stories of like people buying their first houses, and I had an idea for a business and I couldn't do it on my own. Could I tell you about my business, and would you believe in me in a kind of way where you would actually loan me the money so that I could take that chance?
Yes.
There's so much good that banks can do for small communities. And then sometimes when they get so big, it feels like maybe they kind of lose some of that, like, oh yeah, it's actually about these real people, real everyday people. So, I mean, as you're thinking about Deerwood, which continues to grow, like how do you kind of massage that kind of, or live in that tension of, we want Deerwood to grow, we want it to continue to get bigger and to be able to add more resources and tools to make the lives of our people better, in relationship? How do you hold that tension between growth and we got to stay really connected in our small communities?
Yeah, I think there's a few different things there. One is the sales piece. I think one thing I've also enjoyed about Deerwood is we are not a suit and tie salesy bank. Far from it. And I'm sure you've met many of our bankers. You see that. So we're never going to have that culture. And I think I love that. And that keeps us grounded in our communities, because while we are a bank and we want you to bank with us, we're also just your fellow community member, right? We're coaching the youth team with you. The growth aspect is we are not a bank that is the banking in a box. We have a full portfolio of products across our departments. It's one of those things of how can we, going back to success stories, how can we share those success stories of how we've helped that new youngster in a market that has an idea for their own business? How can we help them and then take that story and amplify it so others can see what we've done and how we've been a part of that? I don't have any groundbreaking, tips on it, because honestly, it's a struggle for us too. I think it's a struggle for a lot of people. How can we grow? And we are growing, right? We've grown, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. But how can we grow and still keep that small town local, the Deerwood Bank feel, when all of our competitors, even as they've grown, they're saying we're local. Everyone says we're local. We try to show what that actually means, right? By empowering our employees to get out in the community through volunteer efforts, through sponsorships. That's a huge passion of mine. That's something that sits on my table. It's all of our large community partnerships. We've worked with Switchboard on a few of those, with Kinder Coffee.
Yeah.
You want to plug it?
Yeah. I mean, as in mentally preparing for this, I didn't even think about, so Kinder, which is a coffee shop that we have. We host this big coffee festival.
Yes.
And we just finished our third year, and for the last 2 years, Deerwood sponsored it.
Happy to.
And it was incredible having you guys come and join and be a part of that. And so it's not just true because I've seen it, but it's true because they have invested in our small business, in our kind of venture of trying to bring coffee in a different kind of way to central Minnesota. And yeah, it's been an absolute treat having you guys
been crushing
in that sponsorship.
We'll
So
see you September 2025, right?
can't wait.
Let's go.
Can't wait.
Let's go. So it's to recap that it's a constant struggle. I think we do pretty good about it. I think one of the things we do great is putting the power back in our employees' hands, asking them what matters at your local level. That's going to make a difference.
I love that.
Yeah.
With each community that you're in, and I mean, we even know this just as we've worked on some projects where we're trying to tell the story of each of these little communities. Like there are similarities, there are similarities to them, but they are their own unique subculture. And if you just kind of homogenize all of the marketing, it has to come down from Deerwood, and it's just going to force every community to be the same. But if you guys continue to ask those people, like the teller that like greets, I mean, this is, we were doing a video. We were doing a video in St. Michael, and just the nature of how it needed to go. We needed to use the lobby, and you can't close a lobby, and you can't close a drive-through. And so we just, on occasion, we would have to pause because a car would pull up. And so we would just wait for, this little 60-second interaction as the person was dropping off their money or whatever they were doing. And the woman that was at that window knew every single person's name. And just like, it was a unique thing. Just like, we're going to pause for 30 seconds here, but we got to like kind of overhear her conversation of like, hey Ben, how you doing? How are the kids? And just that kind of like real human interaction that exists it was, besides the fact that we're trying to film a video, it was really awesome.
It's special.
It was to hear, oh yeah, this bank here, they know their community. Who cares about Deerwood to a certain extent? Like they know their people.
Exactly.
And so if what Deerwood cares about is making sure that those voices, and not just Deerwood, if you're listening to this, all businesses, like if your people, the people that you employ, if they're communicating on a daily basis with your customers, make sure to ask them, what is it that our people want? What is it that our people need? And then the trickiest part of that is then empowering them to actually like make a difference. And so I've got to see that firsthand with what Deerwood does, and
that's
super cool.
We have 14 offices now, and you said it. If you had this umbrella and you filtered it down from there, and everything was the same plan for each market, it would have busted. Deerwood would have busted years ago. The best thing we have going for us is, and this recent acquisition is a good example of it. We recently acquired the St. Michael location to the Deerwood map, and the Ogama location. Those are two very, very different markets. They actually came through the same bank purchase, but St. Michael is on the verge of being the metro. Not really. They want their own independence. Ogama is ag land, very rural, deep-rooted history in small-town Minnesota. Very, very different. The one thing we have going for them is the people. We kept the people, right? We kept the people in place because they are the number one asset we have, because you just nailed it. They know at the local level what's going to matter. They know their players in that market. They know their customers. So that you take that little snippet, and that is Deerwood Bank as a whole. We're in 14 locations. Every single one of them is different. There's commonalities across, but you got to treat them as their own individual towns.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, as you guys have been through some mergers and acquisitions, what have you learned about marketing? It's a unique thing to try to fold in other markets, other approaches, other creative assets.
Yeah.
As a marketer yourself, like what have you learned about the mergers and acquisition process in relationship to running small business?
We've always taken the position, at least since my time here, of not so much focusing on I think some bank marketers and people outside of our industry, when they're coming into a new market, they get caught up in the idea of the new prospective customers that they'll have. I think the one thing that we've always done really well, and we just did it really well, I think, with this recent acquisition, is we focused on the people that we're bringing in as customers day one, right? Those customers that were acquired in the merger. Focusing on them, I hate to say over-communicate, but over-communicate. At the same time, this might contradict a little bit, keep it simple, right? Our tagline's nice and simple, and we lean hard into simple. With that communication, what I mean by over-communicate is make sure you're hitting all of your avenues. Meet them where they are, whether it's online banking, notifications, pop-ups, email marketing, or communication to them about the acquisition, the timeline. Even the print mail, the welcome guide, send that out months ahead. Make sure you're hitting everything, over-communicate, but make sure it's all very simple and digestible. And I think we nailed that in September with this last acquisition. That's my biggest takeaway is you can focus on the market share opportunities that you have in that market, but make sure that the experience is fantastic for those that are automatically coming to the bank,
Right.
because they're going to be the one to tell their story of how they first met Deerwood Bank. And in a roundabout way, they're going to tell the Deerwood Bank story.
Yeah.
And hopefully if you do it right, that all adds up to a really positive story.
And there's no guarantee they stay,
No.
right? And so
No.
like treating them like you kind of need to win
Yeah,
them and
yeah.
woo them, like that you're not just assuming, oh, because you were here before, you'll for sure stay.
Yeah.
I think there's something that's kind of like honoring about that.
Yeah.
I won't even say what industry it is, but I had a transition for some professional services that we were utilizing. There was a transition in ownership, and the new owner just assumed, like, first of all, they didn't tell me anything about that the transition was happening, and when the new ownership came, like by the time they eventually communicated with me, they just assumed like that we were going to stay. They never asked, or I don't know. There was something about it that just made me like, I was bummed. I was like, I'm not doing business with you just because I need this product or this service. Like, I'm a human being. I want to do business with human beings. It's it's what I'm trying to do in our business. I want to continue to be a real human being.
Yeah.
And it was just really, really off-putting the way that they kind of went about that. And so being on the receiving end, kind of the other end of that, where people didn't. They just assumed that I was going to stay. It made me inclined to look for something new.
Yeah.
There was no communication, and then when the communication came, it was assumptive. Like, oh yeah. You've always been here. Of course you'll stay.
Yeah. I think I'm a sports guy, so I always look, and then this recent acquisition is I consider them free agents, right?
Yeah.
They are free agents. They are looking at free agency.
That's a great way to do it.
And to expand on that, I think especially for our commercial bankers that have a lot of business clients, they're up to the eyeballs, right? A lot of them with these networks that they built of their customers. Yeah. The challenge for them and for all of us at Deerwood is all of our customers are free agents, right? They're all free agents. They have loyalty to us, right? We want them to be sticky, but like we just talked about, there are those life moments that come up.
Yeah.
How are you continuing to treat that customer as a person, meet them where they are, so that when that life moment does come up, they decide to re-sign with us, if you will, and not hit that free agency market.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at it.
That's great. Jed, from your seat in marketing at a bank, you kind of have a unique perspective on small business. Like, I'm kind of in small business because I own and run a small business. But from your seat, why do you think small business is important? Why is it important for Deerwood to continue to like build products and services to support people who maybe don't have like kind of the right portfolios yet, right?
Yeah.
But that they're just starting out. Like, why is it important to continue to push that and try to grow that in a community?
I think that small businesses build up the character and identity of a town or of a city, of a community. I think if you were to say, what is your favorite location, let's call it within Minnesota, to take the family on for a weekend trip? What would be a spot for you guys, maybe in the fall or summer? What would be a spot for you guys?
Duluth.
I bet you if you think back to your memories of Duluth and when you look forward to going back there next, you have a bunch of small businesses that you are a patron at that build into those memories an idea of what you think of as Duluth. I
bet you they're all small businesses.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing?
Like the ones that I remember, I mean, we for sure ate at, whatever fast food place too, but like I don't remember any of that.
Yeah.
But I for sure, I bet you all of the memories are tied to some small business.
You don't remember, Target. You don't remember the Target in Duluth. You might stop in there, but that's not what we're talking about here. I'll shout out Ideal Diner. Ideal Diner. Have you ever been? Northeast Minneapolis.
I lived in Northeast.
Did you?
I lived in Northeast, just maybe a mile from Ideal.
Really?
And
did you go?
All the time.
Okay, thank you. I love this. Let's go. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So I think of Ideal Diner when I think of Northeast Minneapolis. And I think that is on such a small scale, 13-seat scale. They have 13 seats in their spot there. That is a small scale of what a small business can do for a community.
Yeah.
It is an identity. It is character. It is all those things.
I have so many good memories at Ideal.
It's
Oh, I love it.
fantastic. I lived off 19th and Central, so I
Yeah.
was like walking distance.
Yeah.
It was dangerous for my wallet, although
Yeah.
the eggs and hash browns there are pretty
So
cheap.
good.
Yeah.
I used to have a scooter,
Oh yeah.
a 49cc Yamaha
Let's
Zuma,
go.
two-seater. I bought it when I was a senior in high school, and I got there was a scooter that was only one seat.
But you're like,
called the
I got hot
Metropolitan.
dates coming up. I need the 2-seater.
It was exactly it. I was like, if I get a one-seater, I'm just on here by myself. But if I get a two-seater, I could maybe put a lady on the back
There we
and go on
go.
a little date. And I was able to convince a few of my other friends over the years to get scooters. And we would do these absolutely ridiculous scooter rides. And
Scooter gang.
we always wore little bandanas around our neck, and we called
This is a
ourselves.
scooter gang.
Yeah, we called ourselves Los Tres Banditos, which
Okay.
I don't speak Spanish, but like I knew it. I thought that was the three bandits.
Yeah.
The os on banditos makes it little. So the irony is that we were the three bandits riding these
Yes.
scooters, and we were
Yes.
actually the three little bandits. Los Tres Banditos.
That
And-
works. It
yeah.
works. I might have to see some photos if you have any photos
I've got
of that
photos.
time. I'd like to see that guy.
But we would often start or end. We'd start or end at Ideal.
Really?
So if we were taking off early in the morning for some fun long day trip,
Mm-hmm.
cruising at 35 miles an hour for a day is so much fun.
Yeah.
It is so much fun. The way you get to kind of just like take in your surroundings because you're
Mm-hmm.
only going 35 is so fun. We bought a scooter, me and Nathan. Hello, Nathan. Nathan was going to go buy a scooter, and we found one for him. And we went, and this guy, a fascinating guy. I wish I could find him still. I bet you sopping wet, he was maybe 100 pounds. Really, really slight dude, smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
I bet you in the 30 minutes that we were there buying the scooter from him, he maybe smoked a half a pack. And before he would smoke every cigarette, he would put in a lemon head because it made the smoke sweet. This incredible
This guy had
character.
it figured
He
out.
did.
Yeah.
And this guy, he could have been the president of any scooter gang ever. And he said a sentiment that we continued forever. He said, I don't know if you know, but you lose yourself on a motorcycle, but you find yourself on a scooter. So anyway,
I could just see him just
Yeah.
taking a long
yeah,
drag.
and he hit those hard. I mean, like
Yeah.
his whole body shook while he was
Yeah.
just pulling that in.
Oh, that's great.
But all of those. Oh, it's so funny that you said that. Just all of those memories of starting those trips at the Ideal Diner.
It's still kind of my neighborhood northeast is, so I might be
Yeah.
doing some hot laps around looking for this gentleman.
It's great.
I want some life advice from him.
That's right. Maybe just take the life advice on about scooters.
Yeah.
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 Anyway, I absolutely love that you know the Ideal Diner.
I did not think you would know.
Yeah,
That's
fun.
awesome.
I lived on Grand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Okay, Jed, you've been in marketing now for where did you come from?
Yeah. So graduated from Wisconsin Stout with a marketing degree there. That was winter of 2017. And then my girlfriend at the time, now wife, we took just about a month and a half and just ran around Europe, right? It was something we'd wanted to do. So it was a blast. Got to see the world a little bit. And then came back and moved to Brainerd. That's when I got the job with Deerwood. It was like kind of that first summer out in the real world, if you will. So moved to Brainerd, Baxter's headquarters for Deerwood there. So that's kind of the story of how I came to them.
And so, I mean, Deerwood is basically your first real marketing job.
First big boy job.
I love that.
Yeah.
What do you love about being a marketer? What do you love about communicating and helping think about story and how that relates with business?
Yeah, telling the story. I know I've talked about that a little bit, but telling the story is so much fun. Some of our testimonial stories are like my favorite things ever because we often ask our customers for not only the success stories, but give me the business owner that is talkative, that is a personality, that is someone that you need to chat with.
Yeah.
So the stories we get out of that are amazing. The challenges at times challenges and joy can be wearing a lot of hats, right?
Yeah.
So I'm a team of one. You know, we work with Switchboard for a lot of our creative marketing, photo, video, but there's still quite a bit that falls to me within the bank.
For
So you wear a lot of different hats. I was in St. Michael a couple weeks ago, and we're at a very high level strategic planning session for 2025, as well as also talking about, this new market, what are our goals and initiatives. So really high level, deep thought stuff. I walked out of that meeting and I hurried into the next office to quickly hop on Canva, a creative tool, to put together a flyer because our Mendota Heights office is under construction and they need a flyer right now to go on the wall.
Yeah.
So you see the complete opposite sides there, where this is
Something so temporal.
Oh, my
we
goodness.
need a flyer right now.
Right now.
And where are we going in the future?
Yes. So you see, and my brain, I get fried some days because your brain shifting in and out of that is really challenging. I think I've come to balance it out pretty well over my years. But that's something that's probably never going away. Even if I expand the team, which is a goal and hope for us, those things are always going to be there. There's always going to be something that comes up that needs to be tackled right now while you're in the midst of something really, really impactful for the bank. So that's the challenge. The joys of wearing all the hats, though, I know everyone at the bank.
Yeah,
I think
cool.
me and our president and some other members of leadership, they probably all know our almost 200 employees now. I think I know dang near every one of them. I chat with them all the time,
Right.
because I'm working in all of our departments. I'm working with our tellers when they have a new community request that comes in, personal bankers. I'm working with our commercial lenders on long-term campaigns that are going to help them with their prospective clients. So it's like I get to work with and have fun with everyone in the bank. I don't know, peers in my industry, I don't know that they get that. Once you start to build out your team and really, for lack of a better word, silo your departments, you get like cut off. And I'm still swimming in this pool where I can talk to everyone, and I love it. I love it.
It'll be interesting to see as your team grows and as you, continue to grow and develop in your, career. And as Deerwood grows, right? If you're at 14 locations now, at 28 locations, your ability to know 400 people will be smaller.
I know. Yeah.
But it'll, as that grows and changes for you, as the circumstances around you kind of grow and change, it'll be interesting to watch you kind of still figure out like how to let your role change and to grow in that and still make sure that you kind of keep rooted in those communities. That'll be fun to see how you do that.
Yeah, and that's the challenge. Is I think I was early in my time. Everyone probably suffers some type of imposter syndrome. For sure. Early on, I had imposter syndrome big time. I'm like, wow, I'm the marketing dude here.
Yeah.
Like, let's see what you can do, Jed. Yeah. So I think I erred on the side of doing everything that came to my inbox. Everything.
Oh, right.
From those posters to, hey, let's set up a demo with this group, whatever it might be. I was a yes man.
Yeah.
And I think I've done a nice job of trying to step back from that and really filter out what is actually meaningful to me and to the bank. But you're absolutely right. It's always on my mind of, as we continue to build this beast out, how do I mold and shift, and how does my role shift with how I communicate with every person at our bank?
Yeah. I absolutely understand the imposter syndrome thing. When I quit my day job to be a full-time photographer, I remember people, I would meet the first time that I met someone, Guy, nice to meet you. Guy, what do you do? And just being like, I can't say I'm a photographer, and then the question when finally I got comfortable to be like, I'm a photographer. Yeah. People would be like, oh, like you're like, that's your whole job. I'm like, yeah, that's my job. And again, just feeling if you, can you see through me? Like as I say, I'm a photographer, can you see through? Yeah. Like how nervous I am.
And scared I am to tell you that.
Yeah, my wife is pregnant and we have a baby coming and a mortgage. And I'm absolutely terrified with you for all of this. Yeah. Feeling that imposter syndrome for sure.
I have two questions for you.
Okay.
My one is, I think you've told me probably back in 2019 when we were first meeting each other and learning about each other. But what is the story of Guy and how Switchboard came to be? Can you give me the 2-minute, not an elevator pitch, a little bit longer than that? Sure. You said you started as a photographer, and I'm assuming photo and video jobs started coming to you, and you expand on that. But why don't you fill me in a little bit?
Sure. I was in a boys' choir as a kid. I was ended up being a music major in college, but I was kind of a music kid, and some of the music stuff that I did allowed me some pretty neat travel opportunities. The boys' choir traveled, and then, most of the choirs that I was in through when I was young, there was a lot of traveling. Yeah. And my mom had a really nice camera, a really nice film camera, a DSLR a Nikon DSLR for those of you who know anything about cameras. But it was way nicer of a camera than I should have had access to. Yeah. And my mom she's a cool lady, and she trusted me to come back with her camera. And so I traveled with this really nice camera. And I just kind of fell in love, with traveling, but really I like capturing kind of the stories while I was traveling. And so I ended up in college, being a music major. And again, lots of traveling, lots of taking pictures. I went to Northwestern, and the way that Northwestern works its credits is that whether you take 12 credits or 18 credits, you're a full-time student. You pay the same amount. Maybe this is everywhere. I only know about Northwestern. And so if you are at 17 credits, you are missing out on a credit that you paid for. And so there were lots of students that I was with. It was like they took the absolute, what's the bare minimum amount of credits that I can take in a semester so that I can still graduate with my friends. And I was kind of the opposite. I was like, well, I've already paid for it.
Yeah.
And if it's something I could learn, I want to go and do that. And I had 17 credits one semester, so I opened the book, and there was a 1 credit. So I just went and looked at the 1 credit classes.
Credit. There's like yoga in there and swimming, whatever.
Underwater basket weaving.
Those are the ones that we used to. Yeah, I'll look for.
And it was like a darkroom class. And I called my mom because she was kind of my, helper, what's it called when your counselor, your academic counselor. She just helped me with all that stuff. And I said, I thought she'd say no, because it was like, well, you should focus on focus on the stuff that matters. And I just said, I have a credit that's available. How would you feel about me taking a photography class? And she was so excited about it, so stoked for it. And she encouraged me to go do it. And so I took this darkroom class just because I wanted to fill this credit. And I fell in love with it. I started asking all of my friends if I could take their picture. And this is what I tell young photographers all the time. If you're interested in figuring out how to like become a professional photographer, you just have to take pictures every single day. Just start asking people. Yeah. Just start asking people, would you let me take your picture? There are so few people that will say no. And for sure, if they're your friend, sure, yeah, you can do that. Like friends who like all lived in a dorm together, like we'd do like family Christmas cards, and I would just like take these family photos of them, just anything I could do to take pictures. And then one of those roommates who I had photographed asked me if I would shoot his wedding. And I should have said no because I didn't know what I was doing. And then I said yes, though. And the day went really great. It was in Duluth,
Took a risk.
Big puffy white clouds, beautiful day. The photos turned out great. And it was such a high that I was like, I think I'm going to keep trying this. Yeah. And then I thought I'd forever be a wedding photographer, but ended up back in St. Cloud. A friend, Don Zimmerman, encouraged that you should think about being a commercial photographer too. And so as I jumped into more of that thing, a little reluctantly, because I loved being a wedding photographer. This is what I am. And but there's something really fun, similar to what you said about like in banking, these different moments, these kind of like life events that are kind of pivotal. What's happening when I'm shooting photos for businesses, it's a similar kind of thing. It's not a wedding, but there's something that's happening in their life or their business that's kind of that they're trying to mark whatever's happening with a photo in a similar kind of way. And so there's excitement around photo shoots. Often they're excited about this marketing campaign. They're excited about the new website or the new business, whatever it is. And so like the things that I loved about shooting weddings, I got to find that in commercial photography. And then as I started having, we have 2 kids and a wife, I have a wife, being gone every weekend in the spring, summer, fall was hard.
It's terrible out here.
And so being a commercial photographer, it just kind of started to make sense. And I met with someone and I asked them some questions, trying to figure out, like, I'd like to shoot for you in a way that would be helpful. So could you tell me about what you need these photos to do? And she did not know. And so I just started like digging and like looking for information. And by the end of it, I said, you don't actually need me. You don't need commercial photos. You need a website and a logo. I think you need a mission statement. I think you need to know what you say yes to and what you say no to. There's some stuff you need to figure out, but I'd love to help you when you get that figured out. And I think that maybe no one had ever like kind of told her no before, like turned away work. And she said, well, why don't you do that? Could you do that for me? And so I called one of my best friends.
And how long ago was this?
Switchboard is 9.5 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is, this conversation is almost 10 years ago that this happened. And I called one of my best friends, Ryan, and said, I'm thinking about starting an agency in St. Cloud. And Ryan was already in the metro doing the big, cool agency things, a brilliant designer. He's now our lead designer. Buried the lead there. No.
Ryan is brilliant. Shout out Ryan.
Ryan's wonderful. And I just asked him, I was like, do you know anybody looking for a full-time design job? Because I think there's a hole in the marketplace here, at least for this one person. She fell through the cracks, right? And so maybe everyone else was getting served, but I had this microcosm, this little example here of like someone who had fallen through the cracks. No one had actually taken the time to listen to what her need was and then recommend the thing that she needed, not the thing that they sold. And so I was like, I think there's an opportunity to do it different in the marketplace. And I called him and I said, do you know of anybody? And he said, I don't, not off the top of my head, but I'll keep thinking about it and I'll let you know. And 10 minutes later, I got a text from him that said, what about me? And it was, it was so fun, so exciting that my buddy, who's such an incredible designer, would be willing to kind of go backwards. He was he had made it to the metro.
Take a risk. Yeah.
And to come backwards and help start at the very beginning. And he and I have been being creative buds for the last almost decade together. So that's kind of how we did it. And Switchboard has grown and changed a whole bunch since then. At the beginning, it was basically just logos and photo. Yeah. And then the web thing has grown so much, and now video is,
taken over.
Yeah, video is, we sell more video than anything else. So it's been interesting just kind of chase it and follow it and see where it goes.
It's an awesome story.
Yeah.
That leads me to my second question.
Let's hear it.
I don't think I've ever asked you this. Maybe you might have just answered, and we'll find out if my theory is correct. Just a huge Steve Jobs fan, or what is with the black shirts? Where does it stem from? I gotta know.
Well, dress for the job you want, not for the job you have.
Okay.
And so if you want to be Steve Jobs,
if you want to be Steve Jobs, wear a black shirt.
The irony is I don't actually want to be Steve Jobs or anything like that.
Yeah.
I would never
get that vibe from you.
So silly or presumptuous, but there is something about, there's kind of some different levels of this. So what I do is something that I think you just call it, it's a uniform. It is all the exact same shirt, the exact same pair of pants, the exact same shoe, just all day, every day. It's just the exact same thing.
You wear the same pants and shoes every day?
I mean, I have the same cut.
But
they're all identical. All of my pants are the exact same size and the exact same cut.
Okay.
So I expend zero energy ever in thinking about what I'm going to do for my clothes.
Yeah. I've heard of that theory.
I wake up in the morning and if my wife's still sleeping, I can reach into the drawers where I grab the exact same undershirt, the exact same sweater, the exact same pair of pants. Everything is identical. And I could get dressed completely in the dark and it would always look the same.
Does this extend to weekends, life away from work?
Oh yeah. I don't even own I mean, I have shorts, I like to work out. So I have shorts, but they're gray,
All right.
Yeah. It's an opportunity to use creative energy on something different.
Okay.
And some people, and I'm totally fine by this, but they like to express their creativity in part through their clothes. And I don't have any interest in that. I'd like to use whatever creativity I have. And I don't even think that it's necessarily limited. If you spend time thinking about your clothes, you can't be creative in your day job. I don't think anything quite as stupid as that. But I like that I don't think about it at all, and I get to expend all of my creative efforts on other kinds of things.
Frees up brain power.
Yeah. And I think the thing that kind of put me over the edge is at one point years ago, someone shared it with me, but Mark Zuckerberg had a kid when he came back from paternity leave. It was a photo of his closet. And he said, first day back at work, I wonder what I should wear. And it was blue hoodie, blue hoodie, blue hoodie, blue hoodie, blue hoodie, blue hoodie. Just, he wears the exact same thing every day.
Yeah.
And then you start looking into it. There are a lot of people that do that.
Do it.
And so that's why.
Cool.
And there's another version. If you're interested in this even a little bit, but you don't want to wear the exact same thing, you should look into a capsule closet. A capsule closet is basically where you pick 15 or 20 pieces and they all go together. So you could basically reach in blind and grab one of each of them and they all work with each other, but they have a similar color palette.
Yeah.
And you kind of develop a look.
Interesting.
With a capsule closet.
Okay.
So you have a vibe without it being identical all day, every day. Here's one of my favorite things is I have lost a substantial amount of weight over the years. So if your weight ever fluctuates at all, it's nice that all of the clothes always fit the same.
Yeah.
And if you have lots of different clothes from different eras or times of your life, sometimes those clothes, there's these are the clothes that I feel chubby in, and these are the clothes that I feel skinny in.
Yeah.
But then if you actually do put on weight, you just end up gravitating towards the ones that you feel good in.
Outfit, yeah.
But you maybe don't really realize oh yeah, I did put on 5 or 10 pounds, right? And so there is something about the clothes. They all of them always need to fit. So
you're ballooning up and getting thin. You have no idea.
You have no
idea. Just
idea.
grabbing different clothes.
But when you're wearing the exact same sweater all day, every day, you kind of know where you're at.
Yeah.
So
and watches. Sorry to one more question. Watches. You have a passion for watches.
So that's where that's where the little uniform thing breaks, and that I really like watches.
Yeah.
I have a watch box that has 12 spots in it.
Okay.
And so the rule is, as it stands right now, maybe someday I'll break it. But as it stands right now, I can only have 12 watches. So if and when I get a new watch, I have to get rid of a watch.
I like it.
It is a fun little way to accessorize.
Yeah.
And really, more than anything, a watch can be a really fun way to remember something special in your life. This watch I got in Japan. This is Seiko. I'm not a big Seiko guy, but it's a Japanese watch company. And while I was in Japan for work, I went to the Seiko store and I bought a Seiko watch.
Cool.
And so this will
You remember
forever,
that.
like
Yeah.
forever.
Excellent.
This will remind me of that really fun trip to Japan.
Awesome.
And watches. I have a watch that my mom gave me that's important to me. And anyway, there's stuff like that. These like kind of memories attached to stuff.
So I have a Garmin. Do you look down on us smartwatch people?
I don't. It's just a different kind of tool.
Yeah, absolutely.
The unique thing about a Garmin or an Apple Watch is when you buy like the new Apple Watches, close to $1,000.
Yeah.
Right. And it's incredible, and the amount of technology in it is remarkable. I get all that. It's super cool. You can take care of that watch, right? Take really, really good care of it. And in a couple years, it is worthless. That watch will go in the garbage. Eventually, it will actually be in the garbage, right? Whereas a mechanical watch, if you take care of that watch, if you take care of it,
Yeah.
in 1,000 years, someone could still be wearing it.
Yeah, timeless.
There's something that's so fun about how just a little bit of care on that item will allow it to last forever. Your kids can have it. Your grandkids can have it.
I might have to become a watch guy. I don't know.
We should chat
Expensive
about it.
hobby, I would imagine.
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. It can.
It can be.
It can. You can. There are watches for millions of dollars,
Yeah.
and then there's $20 watches that are okay.
Cool.
Well, sweet, Jed. What a fun time.
you.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Working with you guys and working with Deerwood has been an absolute blast.
Yeah.
I love that you guys are trying to bring tools and resources to your customers like big banks do, while desperately holding on to all of the things that make small, local, and community banks special. And just being a part of that and helping tell that story has been an absolute blast. So keep up the good work on that.
Thank you guys so much.
Jed, in closing, we always do one unpaid ad. Is there
Yeah.
someone or something that you think deserves a little shout out today?
You got me thinking on this. I'm going to shout out podcasts. I'm going to do it.
Okay.
I'm going to shout out just podcasts in general.
Yeah.
If you have not come to the dark side of
Yeah.
podcasts,
Welcome.
you need to. I started listening to podcasts back in 2014. I think I'm early in on that when I say
For
that.
sure.
I think I'm very early. There was a guy, my roommate said, hey, I'm listening to this podcast. At that time, I didn't even know what a podcast was. I just knew it was like the app that's like on your home screen. It just like hangs out there, but you don't go into it ever.
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 Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you get them for free. And so I started listening. Bill Burr was the
Yeah.
first podcast. He just hosted SNL. I don't know if you saw it, but
Yeah.
Bill Burr, I listened. And since that day, I don't know if there's a day that's gone by that I've been within internet or used my phone that I haven't listened to a podcast.
Yeah.
It's just been growing and growing and growing. It is a constant in my wife and my life. It's what gives us stuff to talk about at the dinner table. Most of our
What podcast do you guys both listen to that you enjoy the most?
Oh, that is a really good question because we run in two completely different avenues, which is fun because
Yeah.
I get to see she's really into pop culture.
Okay.
And she's also much more politically aware than I am. She loves that stuff. So she listens to like the Dailies podcast, and she'll also listen to like Chicks in the Office, which covers her pop culture fix. I'm like sports focused.
Sure.
I will listen to like the Dak Shepherds of the world. That's one that we probably listen to the most. Have you given that one a whirl?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's fascinating. I don't listen to it often, but I think he's a fascinating individual.
Yeah, they do these armchair experts where they hear stories on a certain topic, whether it be like divorce. Let's hear your horror stories around divorce.
Oh,
So it can be really heavy or really funny, but hearing these real world experiences is hilarious, and it's like so grounding because it's like, that is wild. What I have going on in my life today, it's not so bad.
Yeah.
You know, kind of that kind of thing.
The might be heavy, might be funny dichotomy
Yeah.
feels like a Dax Shepard kind of sweet spot.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So that's my plug. Podcasts, if you are a commuter, I'm a commuter down in the cities.
Yep.
Podcast, I turn my brain off. I'm still driving safely, I promise. But I turn my brain off.
Nice.
I listen to a podcast, and my wife and I just, gives us a
Cool.
lot of content to chat about.
Wonderful. And I wasn't prepared for this, but for sure, get to the Metro and get to the Ideal Diner.
Get to the Ideal Diner.
Go get some hash browns. Go get a little omelet.
My final story in the Ideal Diner, there is a gal. She is still working there. She is wonderful, and I feel so bad I did not know her name. She has got the most up north accent that you
That's so
will ever hear. We asked her where she's from. She said, I grew up a block away from here in Northeast Minneapolis. And I was like, it just doesn't.
Yeah.
But she is wonderful. Go listen to her accent. Give them business. They're awesome.
Fun. Well, Jed, appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.